Over the course of the last 24 hours, we've touched upon many questions. Number one, is the timing of these raids suspect? Today, as the raids continue for day 2, there are two questions we are going to touch upon. Number one, what are the charges of the Income Tax Department on BBC India? They did issue a press release. Somewhere down the line, what we could make out is that the BBC India is charged with tax evasion. We're going to put out the exact graphic of what was said by the Income Tax Department in terms of why they initiated action in terms of a survey here on BBC India. We're going to just put that out in just about 10 seconds. Also, what we are going to talk about is, has it just happened in the rule of the current incumbent government? Because one does, if you look at it journalistically and you look at the kind of chronology that has gone on, where there have been certain media houses that have published or put together a report which has been unflattering to the incumbent government, and within weeks or months they've been raided by none else but the Income Tax Department. So, you know, for a lot of us, just in terms of journalistic inquisition, you would look back and say, the timing is suspect. But also, if you look deeper, it's really not that it's happened in the time of just this current government. It's happened before, viewers. It's happened in the time of the UPA as well. So let's go back to what we were talking about in terms of what are the charges by the Income Tax Department. What does the IT department mean when it says that the BBC India has evaded tax? Let's put those graphics out right now where we talk about the charges of the IT department against BBC India. And I'm going to bring in my colleague Munish Pandey, who's joining me in the studio, and he's going to break it down. He's followed the case of the Income Tax Department on BBC India. We've tried to decode what this charge really is. And Munish, have you been able to identify what is it that the IT department is charging the BBC India with in terms of which is backing up with the survey that it's conducting on day 2?
Well, Preeti, as far as the Income Tax Department is concerned, remember, so far the IT department has not released any official statement as on what charges they are doing this survey against the BBC or the related entities. Now, as far as the sources within the IT department are concerned, what they have told us is that this is regarding the transfer pricing. And in last 2 years, several notices were sent to BBC, their officials, but they decided not to respond, and that is when the IT official decided to conduct a survey. Now, during the survey, what we have been given to understand is that they are going through several financial documents, several materials which were inside the office, and still the survey is still on at the BBC office in Delhi. And after going through all the documents, all the details, if there is a suspicion, then a case will be lodged against BBC.
All right. Okay. So right now we can't really identify a particular charge that BBC India has been charged with.
Yeah, Preeti, as far as the IT department is concerned, they are saying that there is a suspicion. And based on suspicion, they were sending notices to BBC and their officials from last 2 years, but because they were not responding, they decided to just...
So these notices were being sent for the last 2 years, and the IT department claims that BBC India was not responding. So, you know, many would suggest, then how is timing suspect in all of this? Because the BBC documentary, viewers, was only released 2 or 3 weeks, one would suggest, maybe 3 weeks ago, because there was word indication. So the notices, they say, have been going for 2 years, but they've acted now is again, because if one person says, or one side says that, okay, you've been sending notices for 2 years, why is timing suspect? Then the other side will say, you have been sending notices for 2 years, why act now? You could have acted earlier. But let's go to the other aspect of the story, and that aspect is, has it happened for the first time, just under the BJP government? Because a lot of people out there are looking at it, okay, the BBC has been critical of the BJP government, that's why the crackdown. But not quite, because it's happened before, and it's happened on multiple occasions. Let's take you back in terms of the UPA era, and let's play those graphics there of the UPA era when the IT department cracked down on the BBC India headquarters. Munish, how many times has it happened before, and what were the charges there?
Yeah, Preeti, this becomes a very important question because remember, after the survey, the action by the Income Tax Department, there were several opposition leaders who gave a statement saying that it's a shameful act by the IT department, it is a revenge politics. But as far as the legality of the case is concerned and whether there was any action by the IT department when UPA was in power, what I have gathered through my research and through several court documents, right from the year 2002 to 2003, 2004, that was the assessment year. Now, in those 2 years, there were several notices sent to the BBC office saying that they are not paying the taxes as per the norms of Indian law. Now, not only those 2 years, but also assessment year 2006 to 7, 2007 to 8, and 2008 to 9. Which means that in 3 years, there were several notices sent to BBC and their officials claiming that they are not paying taxes as far as the royalty is concerned, the transfer pricing is concerned, and several other aspects of the tax department and their law.
All right, so 4 times during the UPA era. But Manish, I'll take you back to the charge which was laid by the Income Tax Department in the year 2002-2003. Has the charge remained the same in the year 2023? Is it the same charge which is being investigated?
We can say it's the same charge because if we talk about 2002 and 2003, it was also about transfer of pricing. And now what we have been given to understand by the IT officials that again the survey is being conducted on the charges that the transfer pricing is something which they are suspecting at this point of time, and that is why they were sending several notices to BBC and their officials. Now, even during this survey, not only they will be looking at the pricing, transfer of pricing, but also at several aspects, because now they will be having a lot of data, lot of documents, lot of financial documents and transactions detail between BBC World and BBC and different entities of BBC, and maybe in coming days we can see that the IT department may have a major crackdown against BBC.
What's happening with all those cases which were filed in 2002, then those 4 other cases which, subsequently under the UPA years? What's come of them?
Pretty most of the cases, there are more than 5 petitions which were filed by the BBC claiming, and it was against the notices which were sent by the Income Tax Department. All the time BBC challenged those notices before the court, and so far most of the cases are still pending before the concerned courts. There have been not a definite order in favor of BBC or in favor of Income Tax Department in most of the cases.
Are we going to see this pan out in a similar fashion? It's anybody's guess.
Yeah, it is a legal case, so it is going to take several years.
Right, okay. So it's anybody's guess. I appreciate Manish for joining us. For all of you, who were a little confused in what the case about, I'm sure, or has it happened before or not happened before, I hope that's cleared your mind there.